Hey guys, I'm Mark,
I'm Alen.
and welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Well, welcome once again, listeners, to the Next Man Up podcast, where we are about raising men and equipping fathers for the task. And we are so excited to have you with us today. And I am joined once again by my illustrious colleague and friend, Alen Auguste. Welcome into the conversation, my friend. What's going on?
Hey. Nothing much, man. But the traffic, dude, I'm on the road driving, and I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yes, we were bringing this live from my car.
Yes.
In the studio.
Yes. And once again, thankful for technology to be able to connect like this, even though I prefer to be able to look you in your eyeballs. This is a good second best.
Yeah, totally good second best. I tell you what, man, want to test your character? Put yourself in traffic for about, I don't know, as long as it takes till you break.
It probably doesn't take very long certain days, right?
No. Yeah. No, today's one of them. I'm questioning everyone's sanity on a road but mine, and not realizing, like, hey, maybe I'm driving crazy too. So,
yeah.
Let's have a little grace for people.
It's funny. I was reading something recently, and I'm not going to be able to recall it in time to give an appropriate reference, but it was talking about how we transfer ourselves, we project ourselves into the vehicle, and then from the vehicle into the lane in which we're driving, such that when we get cut off or somebody does something that we don't really appreciate, it's like we feel it personally. And it was just this fascinating, like, scientific approach to understanding why, people want to wave at us with one finger, or sometimes we want to wave at them with one finger, or the road rage, or tail them with our brights on at night, like whatever it is. It's just interesting how we project that to the space that we call a lane on a road, and how quick we, and myself included, don't misunderstand me here, how quickly we get offended when something doesn't go our way.
Oh, man. So when you started saying, project, I was like, is he going to say, literally project ourselves into someone else's car? Because I feel like sometimes, I will start talking to the other car, to be honest, yelling at the other car, like the person in the other car can hear me.
You're the only one that does that, right? Nobody else does that.
Yeah, no one else does that one. Of course not. That's great. What in the world? Oh, man. Dude, it's funny because I started with talking about character and this idea of, just who I am and what it comes from a line of who do I really believe I am and who do I aspire to be and stuff. And, taking that and also thinking through the concept of what we're all about, a thought has crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And we kind of jumped into it in one of our other episodes, but, this whole idea of raising up boys to become men, our boys to become men, and this idea of initiation, of we're talking to dads about initiating with their sons. A good question to ask is, what if the father who's initiating hasn't been initiated himself?
How do I do this if I haven't done it myself? Yeah.
Yeah. It's and so there's got to be dads out there. I know that there has to be people out there who are probably in that column, we're dads who maybe didn't have our father stand before us and say, hey, you're a man now.
Yeah.
I've watched you do this And I've seen you do that. And these are the character qualities I've seen rise up in you, and you sharpen, and you followed, and you're a man before me. Look, world, you're a man. I'm sure there's fathers out there, including myself, because I feel like I was in a boat of like, I didn't know I was a man until I think I was like in kindergarten with my daughter. My daughter was kindergarten, and I'm looking around and I'm going,
Yeah.
I guess I'm part of this crew now.
Right.
Well,
Right.
What's going on? So, where do we even start with that? Like, how do you even start? And it can feel backwards. There's a sense of fear, that comes up. Like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what does it look like? And where do we even begin for ourselves? Like, how do we know that we are actually a man? Not just in physical form, and not just because we can, hold down a paycheck, but like we are in fact inside. We reach this place where we know, man, I'm a man. When I look in the mirror, I see a man.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right that there are many, many, many men, fathers, who have never experienced the initiation process or the rite of passage, or put whatever term you want on it, have never really received that baton from their father or from a father figure. And part of that's part of what we're about here, is trying to recapture that, right? And bring it out of the past that we have left behind, and rediscover the powerful tool. So I think on one hand, there's very few people that have ever experienced something like that. That's part of my story. You can go back to episode 3, I think it is, and hear mine, episode 2 for Alan's, and what that moment was like for me when I realized, boy, when did I cross over? So I think there's a significant number of men who have never experienced that. In addition to that, I think maybe there's another segment to this, which is part of what you're saying. There's a subset that have not yet even embraced this idea of what does it really mean to be a man. Not just, I never had somebody tell me, and I had to figure it out myself, but I've never really even fully embraced what it means to be a man, what it means to be a man of character and a man of faith. So if I haven't even experienced that, this is the question that you're kind of getting at. If I haven't experienced that, how am I equipped to be able to offer that to my son?
Yeah, it's because it's got to come. I don't know. I would think there would be a sense of, I do not know what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there certainly was for me. And at that point, I've accomplished all these other things. I won't go back and recount my story, but I've accomplished all these other things, and I'm leaning in. I want to be a husband, a father that's in it and engaged and participating. And even in that situation, I'm like, how do I do this? How many times have we said there's no manual for this per se?
No.
So it's a lot of trial and error and figure it out. But it starts with that awareness moment of maybe there's more. Maybe there's more than what I experienced, and maybe there's more for me to experience in order to be able to be what my son needs. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head, but I think, dude, I think you're spot on in terms of a significant number of fathers out there that are just wondering.
Yeah, and I feel like the best way to dig into something is always to start with conversation, right? Because, what I'm thinking may be different than what someone else is thinking. And to get with another person and to begin to talk, you begin to glean things, and you begin to wrestle with things and dispute things and whatever. And conversation begins, right?
Yeah.
And so a good way to start a conversation is with a question. And I'm wondering if for those of us guys out there who are looking to initiate with their son, to pass baton off, as Mark was talking about, and you yourself have never really had a moment of initiation for you. I wonder if it starts with the question of what is my idea or ideal like man?
Yeah.
Like what do I mean when I say be a man? Because I think from there all these things can start coming out.
Yeah.
And because your idea of a man could be completely different than my idea, and but it's yours, and some of us, we don't even think about that. We don't think about what does it really mean when I say I'm a man, or I say be a man, or I tell I work with young people all day, and I look at guys and I'm looking at them, and there's a moment of correction. I'm like, look, man, stand up, be a man. Like, own responsibility of your part in the situation, and but what do you mean? And I'm wondering if that will help shed some light, in the process of your own initiation.
Yeah, even putting words to what you've inherited from either father or other influential men in your upbringing, putting words to that, and then assessing whether or not that is serving you well or beneficial for those that are around you. Like so much of what we pick up about manhood and about masculinity comes from our father. And I was fortunate enough to have a fantastic example of a father. And on the other end of the extreme, your biological father was just not there. So, that in and of itself taught you a bunch about what it means to be a man, right? Or what you have to do to prove your manhood or whatnot. But I even being able to get in touch and put words to it, or put it to paper, or describe it to somebody, process this idea of what is it for you currently that represents manhood. And then once you got it in front of you, then you can decide, okay, is this working well for me or not? Or is it enough? Is it big enough? Is it hard enough? Is it strong enough to be beneficial to those around? Or is it just simply a cultural easy stereotype or I don't know, I'm kind of fumbling around for words here, but you know what I'm getting at, right? Like if you can articulate what you've accumulated, then you have the opportunity to decide what to do with it.
Exactly. I think turning the lights on to your definition will help a lot. And to just add on to what you're saying about how's it working for you, is because if you can identify your definition and you can see where it's working for you and where it's not, you're able to do something about it, and you're able to change it.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's changing overnight, but you can able to change it. Like the man I am today is not the same man I was 15 years ago,
right?
20 years ago. I've changed.
Yeah.
And my definition, my identity, per se stays the same, but like my principles, they're hard to change, but they've changed, and it's because, I've grown up. I've gotten wiser. I've opened myself to more things that have served me well, sayings and people who have rubbed off in my life, things that I've been taught through experience or whether intellectually taught, I've changed. And so, I'm not saying it changes overnight, but there's an idea of like, no, I don't I don't like this part of my definition and I want to change it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's possibility for doing that. And that can happen. Here's a beautiful thing. That can happen even as you're like raising your son.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because that's where the definition leads to. I mean, again, if like, you know, I said it before, you know, this is a legacy thing that we're talking about here. This is your opportunity, a gift to raise up another boy to become a man, and you're passing off like your definition to him, you know. And yeah, you know, some of it can be wrong, but that changes as your son sees you change. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of things that I've had to go back and say to my son, like, hey, you know what? When Daddy said this or Daddy did that, I was wrong. You know, and I want to let you know what I feel is the change, and I'm going to ask you to follow suit. There's been tons of times of that, whether it's me like making a mistake with him or, you know, this revelation I get regarding people, a part of my faith, and I want to pass it on because I want it to be easier for him like than it was for me. He doesn't need to bang his head up against the wall. But if I see something, like I could pass it on, and these things get passed on as I'm raising my son up, you know, because I'm keeping the torch lit for him.
Right.
Is what I'm really trying to say.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I know there's like, I hope that helps calm some fear that might come up. Like, I mean, I have the best definition. Yeah, no one does. Like, you know what I mean? We're all walking through this life, left foot, right foot, trying to get to, trying to grow with each step that we take forward. So it's okay. Even if you realize like, hey, my definition stinks. Like, oh my gosh, I don't really believe this.
Yeah.
But yet this is what I've like attuned my life to. Well, I want to change. Well, good. That's awesome. And as you change, let your boy see you change.
Yeah.
Let your boy see that definition get sharper and more polished and more beautiful and more giving to the world around you. You know, and he'll see that and he'll grab a hold of that as well.
The listeners that have spent time in the business space will understand this reference, but when rolling out a new system, you know, whether it's a software or an account processing system or whatever, just some type of a system within organizational context, there's usually 3 stages. Just generally speaking, there's the UAT, the user acceptance test, or the development work, I guess, first step. And then the user acceptance testing, where you're kind of kicking the tires, and then there's the production or the go live environment. So in theory, you go from dev to UAT to production. In reality, what we're doing as fathers, especially for those of us that didn't get this type of handoff from our dads, we're doing the UAT, you know, the development work, the UAT work, and the production work all at the same time. And it's in this incubator called our family, where we're trying to figure it out ourselves and live it out ourselves. And at the same time, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but we're advocating, we're living for the benefit of our sons as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, so they see us going through the development work and the UAT work, and then it becomes production and we pass it on to them. And then the cycle starts again. You know, it's this constant, this constant awareness and growth cycle that that allows us to continue to progress and go forward.
Which can be scary and beautiful all at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It can't.
Well, it's a part of the messiness of life that we talk about, right? You know. I was having this conversation with my daughter the other day. She had a little, like a daily calendar picture that she had pulled off and set aside because it was significant to her, and it said progress, not perfect. And I'm like, look, that is so profound. The goal isn't perfection because that's unattainable. Now we are being
Oh yeah.
perfected, but the goal is really progress. And if we can
Yeah.
keep our eyes on that, then it takes some of the pressure, not excuses, but it takes some of the pressure off of this unattainable goal of perfection. And yeah.
In another part of maybe a 2A 2B part of that of this question would be what milestones have you crossed like so far?
Yeah.
What part of this definition of a man have you like owned?
Yeah. Yeah.
I realized something. We don't really take time because, and this is what brings about is because like you brought up the word progress. We don't really take time to celebrate.
We don't
like progress a lot in life,
No.
man. Especially with something that everyone's a man. You just become a man. And it's like, no, it's not the case, man. There's some cool things that have happened that have brought you to where you are. So there's got to be some things that have like transpired that brought you to be the man that you are today. That are the good things. Like, what are those things? Like, where are some moments where you can look back and be like, oh yeah, that was a total day. It was a day when I made a choice.
Yeah. And
I was like, I'm going to be a little bit more responsible. I'm going to be a little bit more loving. I'm being a little bit more caring. No, I'm going to persevere here. Like, because I don't know for what reason, but for some reason, I believe this deals with being a man.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to persevere. You know what I mean? Like there are things, there are moments that happens, and we should look at those and mark those milestones.
You're right.
And celebrate them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Pay homage to them.
It's an excellent point. So I've been doing a lot of work in the personality space recently. And what I know about my personality is I tend to be more task oriented, and I tend toward this expectation of excellence and perfection. And so for me, it's hard. It's hard to think about celebrating when I haven't completed the task per se, or when it hasn't gone exactly perfectly. And again, I recognize that perfection is a myth, but I'm still wired toward wanting that. And on occasion, when I do get it done well and the task gets completed, then I'm just right on to the next task. And so, some of it may just be personality wiring, but I think you're onto something powerful here, that it is beneficial to stop and smell the roses, to look back at the progress that's been made, to acknowledge that that I may not be where I want to be, but I am better and further along than where I was yesterday. However you define yesterday. I think I think you're right on, man. I think you're right on. As much as it's hard for me and not really a habit in my own life, I think you're right on.
And that leads to cementing a truth that maybe you're more of a man than you've actually reflected or been thinking.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're more of that definition than you've been thinking. Like I know that happened to me at least. There was a moment where I was like, no, I am a man. My definition, I believe a man is responsible. I believe a man is loving, is caring, is willing to be reflective and thoughtful and mindful. I go down my list, and as I'm going down, I'm going, wait, there was key moments where this happened in my life.
Yeah.
There was key moments where to be responsible, I had a first child out of marriage, and we talked hardcore about like our child. And my parents got divorced before I was born, and for my story, my dad dipped out, and I've come from a background where I've had many connections, whether it's family or friends, where guys have left their girlfriend, and for them to take care of the baby, for them to take care of, and they're not in their lives. And I remember going, no, like, no.
Yeah, not on my watch.
I'm taking responsibility here. This is my baby. This is my child, and this is my girlfriend at times child. But we're gonna raise this baby together.
Yeah,
that's my choice, and that stemmed from a lot of things. But one area was I made it a point to be responsible, and part of my definition of being a man is one who is responsible, man. And like as I got older, a decade later, like 15 years later, and I'm like, oh wait, I am a man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can look back and point to that, like, yeah, because I noticed that things began to change after that in the area of responsibility. Like I became even more responsible. I became even more responsible financially. I became even more responsible relationally. And not saying I was the best after that moment, but I just didn't pop out like to the man I am today. There was a step that started in that direction, and I kept taking steps in that direction of being responsible.
Yeah.
But it started there. And I knew that moment that I had become a man in that area. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back to what we were saying, toward the beginning. It's what is that definition? And is that definition, like in your case, you said, okay, look, I understand manhood to include responsibility. And so guess what? It's time. I need to be responsible.
Yeah.
And, for some, it could be other words or other feelings, but it really gets back to, the thought around what's the definition? What am I striving toward? Have I crossed that threshold? And look, none of us ever arrive. But have I crossed the threshold to where I am embracing these qualities and characteristics? And then this is what I want to pass on to my son as well, as I live it out and encourage him along the same lines.
Yeah. My last question. Again, this is all stems from questions, and I think that there is tons more.
Yeah.
That will lead you to a place where you see that you have crossed the threshold, and you've initiated, and you don't even know it. This is where I want to go. But questions are really good I think, just to start asking. And so I'm looking at the first question. I'm going, I wonder if I want my son to have me and other men pouring into his life. I wonder what men have poured into my life. I think that's a really good question to ask, to pay honor, to good things that men have passed on in your life.
Yeah.
And I don't, for the listeners, I don't know where you're at, and I don't know who you are. You can have like tons of men who poured into your life that are great. You can have a handful of men that are poured into your life that are great. You can have men that are poured in your life who are not so great. I'm not wondering if they're great or if they're not great. I'm wondering if they've passed on to something to you, or you looking at the way they live has given you something good that you've been able to hold on to for your life.
Yeah.
And can we honor that?
Yeah.
There's, my dad wasn't in my life, but there was other men who, whether it's just a brief in passing or I've known for years, that I can look back on and go, you taught me something. Like, you taught me to be adventurous. You taught me to love well. You taught me to give. You taught me to be about forgiveness. You taught me to be about owning my mistakes. Like, I mean, I can even as I'm saying this, faces are popping up in my head because I've been willing to take the time to remember these men in my life, you know? And so that's a good question. That's, I don't know. Maybe I don't feel I'm wanting to babble. I want to beat it at horse, but like, I think that is a really good question to ask as you're thinking about your own initiation.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, none of us get here by ourselves. And if you're to the point where you want to lean in and you want to be confident in who you are and be a father that can pass that on to the next generation, it probably means you've had some positive influences. So to your point, who are they and what have you learned? And then what can you do with that? Again, bringing it to your awareness and then putting it to practice or putting it to paper and just sitting with it and, you know, deciding how has it impacted you and what can you do with it going forward. I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, man. And I lied. I had one more. It's not really a question. Like, guys, if there's initiation to be done for yourself, fathers, I want to encourage you as you're thinking through these questions to bring in those around you that you hang with and call brothers. Yeah. Those around you that you call your community. Whether that be old, especially if you have older men in your life that you can connect with, those are your age, like even younger, honestly, man. I mean, I think we can learn from our young, like, you know, like bringing community around you as you're thinking about this, because you don't want to do this siloed.
Yeah,
you don't want to, you know what I mean? Especially when the aha moment comes for you, you want other men in your life to look at you and say, no, man, you're right. You're a man. Like, this is why I can see it right here. You know, you're a man. Like you've initiated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that would be my last thing that I would say.
Yeah, I think that's right on, and it dovetails to what I wanted to say as well. So let me categorize it this way. It's not exact, but what you're describing is kind of an informal process of look around you and who can you invite in or who's already there that you can lean on in community. I would add to that and say maybe there's a space for you to do something more formal, such as a counselor to help you unpack some of the past, or a coach like the work that I do to help you go forward.
Yeah.
Or a more formal men's group within your church, or like a men's outing or retreat, or somewhere that a group of guys go on purpose to do things together and lean into this together. And then even on a national level, I know of organizations out there that offer retreats and initiation type of work. So if that's you and you want something more formal, look, it's out there. You just have to look for it, to do a Google search, send us an email, and we can point you in direction of some that we're familiar with. But there's opportunities out there if you want a more formal process, a more structured process to work through this yourself, so that you can be able to pass it on to your son.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, Mark.
Yeah, great questions, man. I'm really learning at this stage of my life the power of questions. And we talk about opinions and ideas and advice here, but we also recognize that we're trying to foster a conversation, and a great way to learn from each other and to learn about yourself is to sit in questions that are open-ended and discovery and not just a simple yes, no, or an easy black and white answer. And
agreed.
Hopefully, listeners, you found the questions helpful today. If so, we would love to hear from you. You know the email address by now.
Please.
It's feedback@thenextmanup.com. We're also out on social, so you can connect with us either on Facebook or Twitter. Our handle is @thenextmanup1. That's the numeral 1. And again, if there's ways that we can connect with you or you can connect with us so that we can help you all along your path, that's what we are about. So once again, Alen, thanks for being with us today and for your very excellent insight, your good questions, and I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, man. Thank you for letting me be on, and I appreciate it. Listeners, we appreciate you.
Always.
Have a good one, man.
Adios. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.